Alright, so the colors I'm going to use just for this little bit right now, as far as basic colors go, for the cockpit interior, this is supposed to be very close to the Japanese green. It also is very close to a Royal Air Force green, but I use this for every cockpit except for German aircraft. This is XF71 cockpit green. I just like it a lot. You can add a little bit of different, like olive drab, to make it more olivey. Some of the other ones have, like some American aircraft. The next color we're going to use is flat aluminum, or aluminium, XF16. It's a good silver. We're going to use XF1 flat black, and lastly for some of the dials and knobs, X7. This is a gloss red. Okay. Let's start with the green. So I used a wide brush, and I decided to do all this hand painted because there's a lot of people that ask me questions about hand brushing and stuff like that. They prefer that. I don't see why not. I usually do that myself. So everything's been hand brushed on here, and sometimes you need about 2 layers. This is all nicely painted up there. So it's still drying a little bit, but it's enough for us, we can still work on it. So I think the one we're going to start with is the flat black paint here. So when you're hand brushing, a lot of people don't like hand brushing Tamia acrylics. I like hand brushing Tamia acrylics. That's why I keep using them. It's one of these tools, you should get one of these no matter what you're into. This is a Tamia paint stir. It's one of the most well-used tools that I ever bought. I use this all the time, especially when I'm airbrushing. So I am going to airbrush the exterior. So this is just for the cockpit. So let's go and do, let me see if I can figure out, because some of the stuff in here is made up. I can tell you that. Like there, the control column. Let's start with that. So there's this box right here, and that is green except for this dial. This is an Army Painter character paintbrush. That's what they call it. See if it'll focus. Still haven't figured out how to get this camera to focus as nice. So just going to paint that little dot there. This is going to be very hard for me to record and show all at the same time. Now, a lot of the stuff in this aircraft is green. But here's the throttle. So, just like that. That needs to be silver, that little thing there. Okay, so I'm just going to, I'll go back and paint all the other pieces that I need to. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause this video right now. I'm going to go paint everything black that I need to. Don't worry about being, if you're following along with me, don't worry about it. Just look at some historical sources, but just bear in mind a lot of historical sources might have one painted green and one painted black, so and other times it might be silver, so you might be right, you might be wrong. There's a good chance you're right either way. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna paint all these little details and stuff, and I'll show that in just a moment, and then we'll get to painting the silver. I guess I should also mention that, in case you ask, Army Painter paints are actually paint brushes. I have 2 of them. These are very easy to find at thearmypainter.com. Very, very easy to get there. I bought these in a local hobby store, or comic book store. So, here's the rest. Painted up. You can see all the little black details. Again, most of them are green, but most of them are made up. So I don't actually know what they are supposed to be. I do know those 2 boxes down there are supposed to be black. So I got those done up. And I painted the 30 calibers and the panel on the top, typically with the 2 dials in the middle, typically that is black. So next we're moving on to silver. And for that I'm going to use my Insane Detail Army Painter paintbrush, and I really like this one. This is a good brush to get if you're looking for something for tiny detail. I have something actually smaller. Don't know if it'll even register on the camera, but that's how small it is. You can barely see it. One of the best paintbrushes I have. So, yeah, painting things silver. I'm going to start with this same panel again. This side. So I'm going to paint this arch here is usually silver. One thing, for a lot of like detail and stuff, what I like is gaming acrylics, because they're a bit more like since these are meant to be airbrushed, they're in a way kind of diluted, thinned down, I guess would be the proper term, versus like gaming acrylics like P3 Games Workshop Citadel paints. They're a bit thicker. So this pipe here is silver. And I just found out that Games Workshop is making paints to airbrush now. Hold on, I gotta get this really close to my face because I can't quite see what it is. There we go. Okay. So the other thing too, all these little dots for the dials on there, they should be silver. They could be black as well. They could even be white. So that's a difficult piece, right? How do you get the paint all the way to the end? You haven't, say you have this same paintbrush. So I'm going to show you something. So what you want to do is you want to dab your brush in, and then you can see that glob on the end there. You don't want that at all. But what you want to do is you want to take your brush and just pull it down like this. There. Now the paint's all at the tip. And so now we can go through, and there. Now this takes a lot of patience, painting buttons and stuff, and that's where having things like decals for the instruments and stuff, that's where that comes in really handy, you know, because then you don't have to worry about that. You just put the decal on, you painted it green, you're good to go, right? But another thing you can use, see if I can find one really quick. Aha, I did. You can use something like a toothpick, like that. It's the same basic thing, just add a little dot. There's a tiny bit of silver at the end. All done. That's it. I think I'm going to give him a second dab. I think I was kind of running out of paint there. Let me just... There. I'm going to pull some of it off. It's better to have too little than too much. Because if you have too much, it's just going to pool all over the place. You're just going to press it down. It's just going to go... It's going to be a horrible mess. Oh, I forgot to paint these chains. Right here, this needs to be silver too. Ha ha ha. So yes, I'm going to go and paint, and I'm going to do just like I did in the other section there. I'm going to go paint the rest of the parts, and I'll be back with the red. Actually, I think I need another color. So there we go. Not too shabby, hey? So yeah, keep a toothpick by, keep a paintbrush by with good bristles on it, and remember, pull the paint like that to draw it to the tip, because that's where you want it. Alright, there's something I did forget to add about using silver paints and stuff like that. Make sure that you stir them thoroughly, otherwise they'll separate, and then you'll have much more of a mess on your hands than you wanted in the first place. So, I've got my red, and I'm using gloss red simply because it's brighter, it's more noticeable, which is what they would have had. And I'm going to paint the small little red dial. Didn't get enough paint there. There we go. just like that. And I also want to paint a couple of those buttons red. Why? Because I can. And for that, I'm going to use the toothpick again. I quite like that. Worked very, very well. You can also use a needle. Needle works just as well. But I'm going to do these, try and do these top dials up here. I don't think my camera will pick up on this. If it does, I'll be amazed. There's not a lot to paint red. So there we go. Yeah. I'm liking that quite a bit. Looks pretty good, hey? So the other things we need to paint red are these. There's a line right here on the top of this box. I think this is a battery. I can't remember. This needs to be red. Again, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've really detailed a zero up. There we go. Quite nice. So, I need yellow. And I don't like Tamia yellows. I find it to be a very paint that disagrees with me quite a bit without some preparation work, like a good white underneath or another base coat of yellow. So for my yellow woes, I go to, where are you? Here we are. P3 paints. Really, really love these things. I think they're absolutely excellent paints. This is Syngus Yellow. These are acrylic gaming paints. And I bought one of these a little over a year ago for my brother to try. And he has almost all their paints now. No joke. He just goes crazy over them. So I'm going to paint these things yellow. It's so nice. There we go. And I don't think anything else needs to be yellow. Because I think anything else that is yellow actually isn't molded onto the model. Okay, so I'm going to go clean my brushes up. That's another thing, keep your brushes clean. And then I got one more color I want to add onto some of the pieces. So one of the last colors I want to use is X31 Titanium Gold. Next to yellow, this is my nemesis of Tamia paints. This and Titanium Silver. They're both very, very difficult paints to stir up, and I have yet to actually have them work, hand brushing them. If I remember correctly, I think Greg at SeeTheFish.net, I think he airbrushed it once and it worked, but I think he had to do 2 coats of it to get it to work. But I tried it recently, or a couple months ago actually, and someone had a suggestion for this stuff, and it's absolutely a brilliant idea. To paint it on top of silver. It's a good idea. It's a base coat. So I'm just going to show you guys that. So I've had some of the dials painted up silver, and I'm going to paint this Titanium Gold because it's actually a nice color, but it's so hard to use. And there we go. Looks great. And there should be this button right here. Okay. Looks pretty good. Now, I just noticed one more thing I forgot about that we need to paint. So it's just a little extra color. You can go ahead and look through, you know, pictures online and stuff like that and see what you find. For me personally, I don't really get upset when people don't paint them, you know, a cockpit the right color. You know, it's a cockpit. Most people put the canopy over top, and you can't see it anyways. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of bickering about it is. If you have it open, sure, you might want it a little more accurate, but I'm going to use brown XF10. I'm using Tamia paints, the FXF. Yeah, F is for flat. I don't think it really is, but that's how I always remember. I always tell people F is for flat. Any other color is glossy. X is shiny. Actually, I should use a bigger. There we go. Sometimes people also ask me the question, am I supposed to paint these on or off the sprue? I quite frankly couldn't care less to tell you the difference. I think it's whatever works for you. If you like painting on the sprue, then do it. There's no right or wrong answer about that one. As far as I'm concerned, it's whatever works best. So there we have. Those are the little levers. Those will be made out of wood. They could be painted black or very, very dark brown, lacquer on top of that, but I like to paint them brown just to add a little bit of extra color into the model. And so yeah, we got all that done. So I have to go and clean my brush because we're going to do one last thing. We're going to do one last little bit to the to detail this up. And again, while I'm on the subject of painting parts on or off the sprue, like just as an example, something I can't do personally is I've seen modelers and they'll put like the whole cockpit together and then they'll start painting it. I can't do that. It's too close and claustrophobic. But there's some modelers, and that's the way they do it. So don't get that into your mind that simply because I do it this way, somebody else does it that way, and somebody else does it the same way as me, that's typically the way, how you do things. There's plenty of ways how to do it, and for me, it's whatever you're most comfortable with. Go ahead and do it that way. So I'll be right back with the final piece here. So the last thing I want to do to this is add a wash, and I like to use Tamia Panaline Accent Color. It's an enamel wash. You put it over top of acrylics. Don't put this on top of enamels because you'll ruin them. But you put this over top of acrylics, and it's very, very nice stuff. You shake it up, you clean it, runs into all the pools and recesses, and you've seen me use this plenty of times. This is very nice stuff to use, but I'm guessing a lot of people don't have that. You need to look around for it. It's easier to find online. So what I'm going to use instead is some Citadel. This is Nuln Oil. It's a shade. It is an acrylic wash. Very, very nice. And I'm using this because I'm betting most people have easier access to this. Probably have it in their painting arsenal. And so why not? I haven't used this in a long time. I'm going to use a shade brush. Ooh, I never noticed that. My Citadel shade brush for my Citadel shade paints. Actually, the reason why I bought this brush is because I wanted a long, wider head brush, and every art store I went to didn't have one, or they had one for $56. And this is actually nicer quality than what they had. So all you do is you just dip it in, you shake it up pretty well. It's pre-mixed, so you don't have to thin it down, and you just paint it in. Oops, what is that? And here we can let it pool up, and all the panel lines and everything like that, all the ribs. Just float around like that. Gonna make it pool into all those little holes in there. Should have this closer. And what this is also going to do is it's going to help it make it look really nice and grungy and dirty. This aircraft's been in the air for a while. It's been maintained on and off. Look at that. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple little technique. On a bottle of this paint, if I remember correctly, it's about $5 for the bottle, which is the only problem I have is Citadel paints are quite pricey. I like the P3 more because the P3 are only about $3. I find their paints to be a nicer quality. It's personal preference. I'm not saying that they are. And you actually get more paint. but they don't have as wide a color range as a Citadel, but I think they'll get there. But yeah, I really want to try those new Citadel airbrushing paints. They're supposed to be pre-thinned. I'd like to really love to buy a couple of those and buy a tank or something from there and have a go at that and see what they're like. So there we go. All detailed up. I hope this is focused. I'm not actually watching my camera. I'm actually focusing on it this way. So I'll try and do it this way. Come on, focus. Yeah. You get it to flow in all the little nooks and crannies. That's where your detail really starts to shine. The only problem about an acrylic wash, compared to my enamel stuff, is if I don't like the enamel, I can wipe it all away. With the acrylic, it's kind of a one-time thing, and if you don't like it, well, you're gonna have to start all over again. Sorry. Alright. It's a bit much, so I'm gonna pull some of it off. Pull it around. So that'll look quite interesting once it's dried. Last one I'm going to do is the cockpit tiles, all the instrument panels in here. So what I really want out of this is I really want these to pull up. That's going to be cool. Get it on the machine guns, like that. So you can see it's filling up all the dials and everything. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna pull some of this away here. I like it. I like it. So now I'm gonna leave it alone to dry. That's gonna be quite a while, but this is basically it, guys. This is basics, simple little things to paint a cockpit. Add some nice detail in there. There might be one other thing I'll do. I'll see how the wash turned out. So my wash has dried up. It looks pretty good. And I'd like to add a little bit more detail. So I have my brush again. And I've wiped off a bunch of it. And what I'm going to do here is we're just going to dry brush a bit of the raised details. And this is just going to help them be a little bit brighter. It's actually looking really good. What I'm doing here. It's just a little bit like that. I'm going to try and keep it away from areas that you've colored that aren't green. But what happens if you don't want that? Well, a lot of people know that the 0 is a very, well, not a very, they're usually very clean. But a lot of people like to have bits of weathering in there, right? Now, we're going to use our flat aluminum again. And I'm just going to use a random brush right here with a rounded tip. And this is quite simple to do. You just take a little bit of paint and you kind of dry brush it. So I'm going to put it on here. And we just paint on all these edges like that, the petals. Those would be weathered up pretty good. Edges of the seat. just go in there like that. Looks pretty good. So you can also do a little bits of this to the edges of the ribs. Adds in some nice little detail. There you go. Just a little bit subtle weathering. And so guys, that is basically it. That's my quick painting a cockpit video here. Yeah, like I said, it's very simple to add a couple of nice little details into your cockpit, and nice shade. Goes a long way when you have something like that. And yeah, hope this was able to help. And again, I didn't really worry too much about being accurate, or even accurizing a bunch of the parts. Like, there's no control column in there. It's just building it straight out of the box. That's how I wanted to do this quick video. So I'm going to go and continue on with the build. You can go check that out. That'll be in a separate video, but I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informational for you, but this is basically how I paint them up. I get this question asked quite a bit, and now you know. There's not really a lot to it, and it's quite a bit of fun. You can go, do other things, adding in pilots, adding in photo etch seatbelts, photo etch parts. That's all good and fun, but just for basic, I think this goes a long way. I'm quite happy with it. I think it looks great. And like I said, I'm going to go now and finish the rest of the build.